From Koreatown, Los Angeles, thank you for tuning in to Ktown Social Club. This is where the world gathers to talk about the issues you really care about. It's a different kind of a talk program. We're the only show that has perspectives from the far left to the far right. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel, and smash the notification bell. And all our social media information is in the description below. Joining us today is Michael Wan, of course, as always, and Ed Choi and Douglas Kim. Thank you for tuning in, and thanks for being part of our program. Here we are together on Ktown Social Club again. So,
stuck the landing there.
Let's today we're going to cover some things. We're going to cover, Korea. They're getting a bunch of Filipino nannies now. We're going to talk about the Olympics, how China's got the most gold so far by one.
Pan. Right?
We're also going to talk about how South Korea is number 6 with 11 golds so far. Japan is at number 7 with 10 golds. And then we're going to talk about Kamala Harris's...
Wait, does North Korea have any golds?
I didn't look down that far.
Oh, okay.
I think Israel had like 1.
North Korea.
And we're going to talk about Kamala Harris's potential VP pick, Josh Shapiro, and whether he's a good choice for progressives. Okay, and if we have time, we're going to go into something Doug was DMing me over the weekend.
North Korea doesn't have a medal yet.
Let's not do that if we're not gonna take it. They have 2 silvers. If we're not gonna focus on it, then I don't want to have it be like a last minute
North
thing.
Korea has 2 silvers.
Yeah,
nice.
Oh, okay.
They always have like 1 or a couple gold medals, I think.
All right, so anybody hear about the Filipino nannies?
No. You're gonna have to fill us in on this one.
So I guess there's 100 Filipino nannies showing up in Korea, I guess, to help families with...
Like at one time, like they come over in one day and they were all like, "Hi, I'm here to be a nanny," and that's what set off the red flags.
Yeah, let's look at the Korea Daily, what they wrote. So Filipino nannies are set to arrive in Seoul on Tuesday as a trial caregiver program begins. And this fucking internet sucks again.
It doesn't work. I thought we set up a new one.
How's it? Well, I use Mint Mobile. My data sucks too.
Filipino nannies who will be working in households in Seoul.
Man, it sucks.
Starting next month are set to
Who's
arrive
your
in Korea
provider?
on Tuesday.
AOL.
AOL?
Sorry, I just dated myself.
They actually still have customers. I heard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Really?
Dial-up customers.
No.
Really?
Oh,
I think
didn't
it was
know about
like-
the dial-up part.
There were 2 million dial-up customers in 2017, so that's probably down by now. But there were still that many, like $20 a month, like dial-up customers.
So there are people who still use it. Wow.
Anyway, Filipino nannies will be working in households in Seoul starting next month, are arriving in Korea Tuesday, which is today. It's Monday here, so right now it's Tuesday in Korea, so they're just arriving now. So these are 100 incoming caregivers. They're going to undergo a month-long training session totaling 160 hours. I'm guessing 40 hours a week for 4 weeks, including 3-day training required for those entering the country under the E9 non-skilled workers. They'll be trained on health and safety, basic legal education, sexual harassment, caregiving, babysitting, and Korean and cultural education. So applications for households wishing to hire these caregivers were open from July 17th, and it will close Tuesday, which is today here. In Korea right now. So 422 households applied.
On the Korean side, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the selection priority will be given to single-parent families, households with at least 3 children, working parents, and households with pregnant mothers in that order. So other factors such as children ages and expecting hiring period will also be considered. Now, they can work for 4, 6, or 8 hours a day between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on weekdays. And they will start working from September 3rd through late February. And they'll be matched with households
Is this like a government program with like free
Yeah,
childcare?
so that's what I was wondering. I thought you might know about this. Do you know anything?
No,
like,
I didn't.
Are the families paying for this?
To be honest, the
And also,
Filipino
where are they
nannies,
being
when I was
housed?
in
Are
Korea,
they-
we didn't have any of these kind of. We didn't have a lot of immigrants when I was there. Like from Filipino or these are some new trends.
nannies
that
will
I'm not that
be
familiar with.
given the guaranteed minimum wage of 9,861, which is about $7.10 US right now.
Yeah.
I believe they're all going to live in the same housing somewhere near Yongsan, I think, like a
Okay.
dormitory.
Says it was launched by the Ministry of
Yeah, it was launched by the government. That's why I'm
Ministry of
wondering
Employment and Labor.
if the government is paying for this.
It says it aims to address the shortage of caregivers and high cost of childcare, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the government's paying for it.
Yeah, right. So
I would assume that they are, at least for this pilot program,
Yeah.
for people to like want to sign up, because they're trying to entice people like, hey, this is a service, we're trying this out, hey, do you want to be like kind of like a guinea pig? And it doesn't seem like it's that much, if it's just $7 an hour, it's not like it's going to be that taxing on their resources. So I would assume it's probably like government funded as well.
Yeah, with all those people applying, I'm guessing, it's maybe free and it's just a few months. So if they're paying about, let's say it's $10 an hour and it's 52 hours a week maximum, what is that like? Let's just say it's about $500 a week. What is that, times 100 of them? So what is that, like 50,000? And how long is this for? Anyway, it's for
Probably
like
a year.
6 months or something. But anyway, it's not even, it's maybe $500,000
trial period,
investment at the most. I read earlier something, this is about to help with the difficulty in, raising children, or maybe wanting to encourage more.
Yeah.
You mean to have
that
more
makes sense.
babies, right?
Because I think
Because-
like they give money anyway,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
to families that have more than one kid. So it's like maybe they're trying to say, hey, maybe instead of doing that, maybe we pay for childcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? It was something like
that's what it
100K per kid, right?
I don't know how much it was. I don't know if it was 100K. 100K seems high, but you might be right, but I have no idea. But even if it is that high, then yeah, there might be like, oh, maybe there's a more effective way of spending this money by paying for facilities and nannies that can, help raise these
But is
kids.
childcare expensive in Korea because $7.10 is not a livable wage?
It's probably also because there aren't, that many people wanting to do that work.
I feel, Korea has that population problem, like their population growth rate or whatever. It's like,
Decreasing.
yeah. So this is maybe one thing they're trying to, like, how can we get the birth rate back
Yeah,
up if we
yeah.
provide support or something? But I don't think this is enough, because what about the people who can't even afford homes to even raise a family?
Right.
So
Yeah, so I think that's why this is like a pilot program. They're trying to experiment and like, oh, does this work or does it not work? Let's see what happens,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I
It's
think
like
they-
more of a social experiment, I
I
think.
think South Korea is probably pulling all the stops, to try to increase the birth rate. Recently, I read an article where the birth rate is going up, but I don't know whether it's fake or not, because I felt like they were trying to change the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, did it say by how much it was going
No,
up?
I just felt it just sounded fishy, because the Yoon Sung-yeol government,
Oh,
the
yeah, that's-
administration has
they're
been
definitely
being
gonna be propping up
criticized. So I felt like
propaganda,
it
yeah.
came from their source.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
from 0.78 in 2022 to 0.72 last year, according to CNN. Wow, that's
But especially in like a place like Seoul, I mean, like, places like San Francisco, for example. I know a lot of couples that have kids, but then, they have, and New York City, right? They have to spend all this money for childcare. I think like on like just daycare alone, my friend has like 3 kids or something. And he said like it was $100K a year just for that in New York City. So I don't know what the prices are in Seoul. I'm sure like being in an urban environment where it's, it's concentration of capital, right? I think like those kinds of services probably are, maybe not in the vicinity, but for the average Korean, they probably are. And so, this is kind of like a way to cheapen that sort of burden that like, because the families that I talk to in New York City and, San Francisco, they both have like both working parents, right? And so, I mean, it might even be like more economically feasible for one of the parents to be like, I'll be the stay-at-home mom or dad and support our kids. But I think, our work culture and capitalist culture of individualism and freedom and whatever, it's like, no, we gotta be individual, and we gotta, we can have our girl boss career and, have kids too. And it's that sort of mentality has also been kind of like creeping into South Korean culture as well, to kind of just like I think it's more personally for the companies in South Korea to have more labor available to them, but it's sold as like this progressive movement in general.
So how can do you think it'll work or no?
I mean, I think that's why they're doing a pilot program, right?
Yeah.
They don't even know that it's going to work or not, but they want to see what the results are, how the experience is, and what kind of kinks there are. I know there's probably going to be a lot of, like I would predict that there's going to be some hoopla in America and the West and be like, oh, they're just like, exploiting cheap labor from the Philippines and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's true, right? I'm not denying that, but I think that just opens up another vector from criticism from the West.
Okay, Michael, what's the Korean conservative view like in South Korea on the birth rate? Like, what do they think needs to be done?
When I read the papers, it seems like most of the like commentary that they write, their opinion pieces, it seems like they can't figure out, that the future is not good, economically, and it's different from the baby boomers. It's all I see a lot of criticism about it, but there is no answer for it. Like, I mean, they would say people should try to. I mean, marriage is important. The same old rhetoric. Marriage is important, family is important. Everybody knows that, but they can't afford it. So they point out the wage is not high enough to,
Yeah, when you introduce the
kids.
System of capitalism
Yeah.
and also a culture of like individualism, what does that result in? It results in a generation like I talked to Korean people our age, and one of them said something like, I probably mentioned this before, but they were like, yeah, most people, if they have a little bit of money, but not that much money, they're just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to date around. I'm just going to play around. I don't have to settle down because, once you settle down and have a kid, that means you're tied to that. And not only that, it's expensive and you have to like, work your whole life to support that. Like, why would I want that? I don't even want kids, right? I just want to.
A lot of them don't want
be
kids
independent.
too.
Exactly.
And they always talk about money. They can't afford
so
marrying. I hear that all the time. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
So the Koreans in Korea, like the conservatives, they have no answer. They just say,
I think
it's bad, but
they should. Yeah, they say family is important. You guys should you shouldn't be selfish. But I think that is not that convincing enough for
it's
people
because
to change
they
ways.
conservatives, especially like people my parents' age, they're just kind of like, we grew up during the Korean War and had all these things. Like, we suffered through all this stuff. So you should just be able to do it. But they don't understand the mathematics behind the economics that are going on. That, I, as a communist, obviously, I'm just kind of like, it's the economy's stupid.
And I was talking with one guy who used to work for me, before in my section. And he said, he was an intern. And he said a lot of the young guys, like in their 20s, are leaning more conservative, and a lot of young girls in their 20s are more of a feminist. So they also, like even their views of lives are very different, the females and the males. You have to have a lot of commonalities to marry, right? But they tend to argue more, and they call it 이대남. 이대남 is like 20대 남자, guys in their 20s. They are definitely conservative right now. If you look at their voting. They vote more 국힘당, and the 이대녀 20s, the females in their 20s, they heavily vote Democratic. So I think there's a lot of disagreements. I mean, he said that the girls these days, you can't share a lot of interest, even politically, or they get into argument easily.
I think it's just because a lot of the gender divide stuff comes downstream from American politics.
It could be because
Especially
it's
in the
happening
past.
here too, right?
Especially in the past. I mean, I think it happened here first, and then it's downstream into Korean politics because a lot of Korean politics are influenced by American politics. But
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think it's just because Korea is such a patriarchal system. Because typically, people tend to side outside of region by age. So if they're siding by gender, that means there's a system most likely in place where it's allowing men to feel this way and then it's allowing women to feel unjust in another way, most likely because of patriarchy. So it could be that there is some influence, but I strongly believe it's because Korea still has an extremely patriarchal system.
But then why wouldn't that explain Japan being split into gender in this way?
Because Japan also has a very patriarchal
Right.
system.
So then if you're saying the degree of patriarchy is explaining the schism between the genders, why isn't it happening in Japan as well?
True.
But isn't it happening in Japan?
Not to that extent. There's no real.
I think it's worse in Korea right now. The birth rate definitely.
No. I mean the gender gap
Schism.
in politics.
It's not really. In Japan, it's mostly like very patriarchal. It's like very like I think there was like a woman candidate who was a former porn star.
In Japan.
Yeah, in Japan. That's how kind of like a little insane it is there. But I think like not only is it heavily influenced by American politics in the past 10 years, yeah, like you said, it is more patriarchal, right? Or I guess like inherent, I guess like the way the system is set up. And there's like a lot of reasons for that we won't go into, but like I think like why I say it's downstream is like, America is also very patriarchal, itself.
Right.
And, a lot of the patriarchy, I guess, that was installed in South Korea does come a little downstream of American politics as well, because, we were pretty much militarily occupied and told what to think for a while. And that's why I say it's downstream of American politics, because, like, yes, there is patriarchal elements in South Korea, but a lot of those elements are also influenced by American imperialism.
Yeah, but if you really think about it, though, Japan is very patriarchal, but they aren't as outdated in their patriarchy. That's like sounds like a very weird thing to say.
Oh, you think like Korea's?
And then Korea is. Like, for instance, like body positivity and like being able to express yourself in Japan is a little bit more progressive for women in Japan than it is in Korea.
Like they're more free.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like systematically, governmentally, sure, but I think from a societal, cultural perspective, Korea, like women in Korea don't have too much autonomy, which is what I think that they're trying to express.
I would argue that they have less autonomy in Japan.
No, I mean, like if you look at the styles and like what has come out of Japan, I would say that's significantly less than like
when you look
Korean
at the actual
idols aren't even
politics,
allowed to date. And we're talking in
Yeah, that is true,
2024.
though.
Like
Yeah.
that's so patriarchal.
That happens with the male
Because it
idols
affects
as
their
No,
well.
it
It
does.
affects their
but
popularity.
but like it affects the women and the female and male idols completely differently. Like a female idol will lose her complete career if that happens. Whereas like with a male, it's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have. But
Right,
like,
but the female idol stuff is also very influenced by Western consumption. Like the male,
yeah, I
the
mean in
male
the
idol
way
stuff,
that like they are. The music and the dancing is catered to for sure, but
Yeah.
it's the complete opposite.
in any case, I'm more talking about the political aspect. When you look at the politics of Japan, they're just like the female representation is just like almost compared to Saudi Arabia in terms of like patriarchal, whatever.
But don't you kind of think like women getting more involved in the workforce has
That's
also
what
dropped
I'm
a lot
saying
of
too.
birth
That's
rates
what's
and also
downstream
marriage,
of
right?
American
Yeah.
politics.
I think the westernization is true.
Where it's just kind of like this girl bossian idea has come down, but now in South Korea, there's also like these dynamics that don't really translate to the Western or like aren't really like considered in the Western context when Westerners say, "Oh, South Korea is patriarchal," or "South Korea is like backward," or "South Korea is whatever," this and that. One of them being, military service, right?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about like two candidates for a specific job or a specific career, it's inherent that like if you have a 2-year delay on that, you're going to be behind.
Yeah, true.
And so, like in traditional relationships, I guess, or, in relationships since almost the dawn of civilization, it's kind of like the man is supposed to be the provider or the breadwinner or something like that. And these sort of like cultural things aren't just like held by men. It's held by women as well. Like a large amount of Korean women. A lot of people, think that this idea is just like a very patriarchal and male idea. But a lot of women are like, no, I want to be taken care of. No, the man should lead. No, like there is that sentiment among a lot of women.
There's still that too.
Yeah,
You know, when you eat somewhere, you know, they expect guys to pay all of it.
Exactly.
Right?
So I think like there's an element of the Western kind of like system of feminism being imprinted onto the Korean context almost on like a very accelerated timetable. You know, like in America, it happened from, you know, first wave feminism,
right?
second wave feminism, third wave, fourth wave, whatever. In Korea, you know, especially during the post-war period, there was none of that shit.
No.
Like we needed to, you know, Park Chung-hee was like, we needed to work hard. We need to get our country, you know, going. We have no time for this shit. But then, you know, obviously as material conditions improve, and they improve like very rapidly in Korea, like it's called the miracle of Han River, right? So like, you know, as material conditions improve, progressive ideas improve about or progress about like gender norms or gender equality and stuff like that. So I think like there's just this like very, I don't know how to call it, but like it's just this very jarring effect of like, oh, now we're equal. Well, what does that mean? Like and so there's these competing kind of ideas and traditions that are sort of like muddling the waters that aren't really in the American context.
Because the coolness standard, you know, because everybody wants to be cool. That cool standard
Especially
was coming from United
America,
States, you know, because that's where we felt, you know, because when I was going to school, even the teachers compared to Korea to, whenever they give examples, they would give United States examples, you know, look how they're advanced country, you know, so they deal
they were
issues
like,
this way. So it's like subconsciously,
actually,
it kind of makes
that's
us
a good
kind of
point
follow them,
because,
you know, so
because
we're supposed to.
during the early years of the Korea's government, you know, a lot of them knew that a lot of these officials were Japanese collaborators. But the way they explained it, it was like, oh, well, you know, we needed people who had experience running a country to run that. So that's why they were in power.
And I think after the IMF situation, the crisis, then things got really accelerated, you know, with the globalism, with all the Korean companies, a lot of them went bankrupt. Yeah. And you had all these multinational companies, corporations coming to South Korea. And I think that really sped up the process of,
because like in South Korea as well, a condition we have that America doesn't have, or not we, I'm not South Korean, but a condition that they have is that most of they're more of an oligarchy than we are. Like, I think like 80% of GDP is controlled by the top 10 companies.
Yeah, I mean, Korea is like the Samsung, LG, SK.
So like the costs of like even raising a kid to like, you know, become one of these elite institutions to get a good job, to whatever, the competition is getting more and more crazy. Like where you have to spend like 50 to 100K a year on cram schools by the age of like 5, right?
True.
You're like starting early.
My friend spent like $5,000 per month for his daughter when she was only like 10 years old.
Yeah. So when you're like a 30-something or a 20-something, and you're thinking about having kids, you're just like,
so that's one of the main reasons. Actually, the institution, the fee for all that. If they worry about all that, they feel like so overwhelmed that they don't want to have kids. Yeah. Because you're gonna have to pay five grand per. Because
in America, it's not that bad to like, you know, in terms of like, obviously in New York and San Francisco, it's kind of like the equivalent almost. But in most of America, it's not like Korea, terrible to like, you know, raise a kid, because you can sort of like be like, oh, they're going to get into a decent institution even if I don't spend like $1 billion a year. Yeah. But if you're in Korea, like the competition is cutthroat.
It really is.
Like you need to like, if you want your kid to have any chance of survival, you need to like spend all this money. You know.
That's a negative side of South Korea. We have to always spend like, you know, because most of my friends were going to institutes after school.
Yeah, but if all the Korean parents are spending that, then what advantage is there?
I mean, they
it's like an arms race.
They just
status quo.
I think they just don't want to get behind. That's what they say.
Yeah, because
you know, they say if they don't, if they don't pay, my kids are gonna
the super rich Korean parents or whatever, they can always send their kids to an Ivy League school abroad. But in order for a foreigner to go to an Ivy League school, they have to pay. They always have to pay full price. Plus, maybe a premium as
international
well.
Students.
So you have to be really rich. Like they'll get the same prestige when they come back, but you have to pay for that.
True.
So most people in Korea, they don't have, their only shot at success is like one of the Sky institutions, which they have to perform really well for on exams. That's why the suicide rate in South
is high.
Korea is
Yeah.
super high as well.
Yeah, I know. It's horrendous because I lived at
The
Gangnam,
one thing
and
though
it's
is that
horrendous.
you said earlier that a lot of women are like feminists, but they want this traditional man. I think a lot of people forget that the whole idea of courtship in itself is anti-patriarchy. I know when you
I mean, it depends on
when you
which
take it
context
out. Well, when
you're
you
talking
take it
about.
out, when people are like, "Oh, the men have to pay," like that doesn't seem patriarchal. But like patriarchy back in the day used to be man beat woman overhead, man drag woman to cave, and then steal her essentially. Like the idea of courtship in itself was to help with the patriarchal problem that man is everything. Like women need to be courted. They need to have their own consent to be a part of this relationship. So like I think a lot of people tend to forget that like because when they're comparing it side by side, it's easy to be like, oh well, they want equality, like they should have to pay. Like no, for sure. And like if you're in the dating pool now, there is a lot of women, at least that I've seen, that are like, oh no, you don't have to pay, I'll pay. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel a little uncomfortable because I'm so used to paying. But they like
they
insist,
Asian girls?
yeah, and they like insist on paying. And but I think people forget at the end of the day that traditional man in that archetype is only traditional in a recent times in regards to how long men have been around. But that was a long time ago, based off of like,
But still, you're
modern
talking
day
about the
feminism.
Western context. When you're talking about the Eastern context, especially in Korea, a lot of these marriages were just arranged marriages
Right.
back in the
Back
day.
in the day.
Right.
There was no dating. There's no
Exactly.
even concept of dating.
Right. So the whole concept of dating in itself is anti-patriarchal because it says that women have a voice and women have a choice.
That's true. Yeah.
I
I mean, because girls didn't have options back in the day,
Right.
right?
That's even what you're saying. Like they didn't have an
Right.
option. Like you had to marry
They
who your
just
parents
married-
said to. So the whole idea of courtship and being courted and like whatever is in itself anti-patriarchal. At
sure,
its
but then
core.
like, what about like stuff like chivalry versus
Right. To make men stop being barbaric.
right?
Like
but I
rapists.
feel like Western feminists especially want their cake, want their chivalry cake, and to eat it too. No, that doesn't work. They want their chivalry cake and they want
but
their
if you
feminist
think about
cake.
it that way, but the way modern dating is that like you're telling women like this is what I see in your worth. You know what I mean? So like we look at it as in like the details, like oh we have to pay, but you're like essentially charming the other person by being like this is what I'd be willing to do for you. You know what I mean? So like I think in that sense, it is anti-patriarchal because you're not just being like, oh, whatever, let's just do whatever. You're like giving them a choice and you're trying to like impress them. So like, that's like kind of where it comes from. I think a lot of guys tend to get stuck on like, oh, they want to have their job and be treated as equals, but like I have to pay, right, because like they don't have to.
I think
as
this
women.
sort of like thinking only really benefits the rich and powerful men who have the money to just impress
but that's what
women.
I'm saying. You don't have to take them out to those places. You don't have to go to like a 5-star Michelin restaurant, which is like based in white supremacy in itself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but in South Korea, I mean, you should go to South Korea and talk to some women there about their expectations about men.
They should pay
Yeah.
pretty much everything and stuff.
Yeah, they're definitely much more traditionally minded in terms of that stuff, that kind of stuff in South Korea.
well, but technically it wouldn't be traditional minded because traditional minded would have been we're just forced to marry whoever our parents said is like economically or strategically best for our family.
Sure, but then usually what that means is the person who is rich, the person who is, well off. Like back in the day, you didn't marry your daughter off to someone who's just like poor and whatever. You wanted them to marry up, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's the same sort of thing. It's just different sort of syntax in terms of how it all works out.
Yeah, but it levels the playing field both for women and for men by having their own choice,
But here in the States,
which technically is anti-patriarchal.
well,
because
regardless
we're
of
looking more
your
towards
economic background, when you
equality.
eat, doesn't guys usually pay the meal? Usually it doesn't happen like that.
Not anymore.
Not
Not
anymore?
from what I've been seeing. From
Oh, it's different? Is
The
that
ones
trend
that
get
I've been
changed?
going on have been like someone will offer to pay, and then the other person will pay for the next meal. Even no matter how hard I try to argue against, I'm like, oh, this is a trick, and it's not a trick. They're like, no.
Are you
Just
dating mostly Westerners or Asians?
Mostly Asian women, Asian American.
Oh wow, so they're going Dutch. They're
Yeah.
insistent on going Dutch.
That's what I'm saying.
My
It's
experience
different.
too, and this includes not just younger millennials, but even like older Gen
Yes.
Z. They
Same.
pay.
Yep.
Like they're just like, no, I'm gonna pay.
Dutch
No.
or
No,
full?
like
this is
they'll just pay.
This is second generation or first generation?
Both.
Yeah.
Did it
I've seen it from both.
Same.
Did it surprise you? But it just surprised you, right?
The
It
first couple
surprises you, right?
times, yeah, because I thought it was a trick.
The women my age were more like, yeah, you can pay, but like for example, say mid '90s and late '90s, they're like,
Or if they've
either
been
they'll
single
pay
this whole time.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So I was kind of surprised by that. Like, wow, they really are
Yeah.
equal. Like they want
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because you
It
see
was a
these
surprise.
TikTokers who complain that the guy didn't pay. You know, there are those video
No, for
clips
sure.
There's
that-
all kinds of girls. Yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
There definitely are. But from the majority that I've been seeing, it has been a little bit more
Okay, so kind of more of an equal,
I don't know what
right?
the right term is. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that could be, that is a positive? Is that a positive? That's a positive?
For a guy, maybe.
Anyhow, I think there's also a distinguishing that needs to be made for like male and female dynamics from dating, right? And we need to separate that from male and female dynamics in politics,
For sure.
because I think
Yeah,
they're
there's difference.
There's a
in
difference.
in South Korea, especially because of that, army service thing. That
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
huge point of
Yeah.
contention that's never mentioned in Western media.
True.
When
And-
talking about like these incel Asian
Yeah.
Korean men.
And actually, I think a lot of usually like test scores, the females beats guys pretty much all the time.
Almost all the time.
All the time, like
That's
the
even
grades,
here.
difference.
The archers too.
Yeah, and also, yeah, you're right. And also, on top of that, we have to spend 2 years and 2 months in the military.
Yeah.
So they have 2 years and 2 months of more experience in the
Workforce.
real world.
It's
I-
not just 2 years now.
I think they changed. When I was going, it was 2 years and 2 months, and
Is it more now?
so I think a lot
less,
of
probably less.
It's
I
less.
do
I think
did
my dad was like
18 to
2.5
21
years.
months
yeah,
now.
it's-
Wow,
yeah.
that is
I
not
went
horrible.
26
Still
It was
months.
not doing
26 when I was there.
Used to be it used to be 3
we're,
years.
We're
back
past
in
the
day.
age, even if we go back.
No,
in
no,
the
no,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, yeah.
Just barely
35.
past the age.
So I heard that a lot of corporations they actually prefer female employees too because
They have more experience.
They're more experienced and more.
Yeah, but then it all evens out. I mean, I guess technically not now because of the low birth rates, but like women when they get pregnant, if they choose to get pregnant, then they get they get halted in their professional progress.
Yeah, true. And I
It
think
kinda
these
evens out.
days, I think a lot of females,
Which is why they're not getting. But
Yeah.
maybe that's a reason they're not getting pregnant,
Yeah,
right?
part
Yeah.
of it, for
I-
sure.
I gotta keep up
Yeah.
this momentum.
I think a lot of them find more meaning in their career rather than family. And I think it happened to a lot of my former colleagues
Yeah.
too. A lot of them didn't marry.
Yeah, but that's
I'm
also
talking
what
female
happens in any
employees.
society when like the system like pushes something on you. You want it's just a natural human reaction to not want to do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I guess if they have to choose between career and family, I think a lot of them are choosing career over family. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, but so what's the solution then? Like conservatives
Communism.
have no answer, and then what
Yeah,
do the progressives or liberals in Korea? What do they think of this?
They so I think some conservatives are saying let's incentivize,
Yeah.
give them money, like give them some
Like these
even
programs.
this, right? This
Yeah, yeah,
program,
yeah.
that kind of incentivize.
So is this a conservative-led program then? I guess.
What's on? It's President Yoon, right?
yeah,
I don't know.
it's under President Yoon, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just conservative.
It is a little bit funny though because like we just spoke about the other day. I mean, I believe it was Thailand, right? But
Yeah.
like the contention between South Koreans and
Thai.
Southeast Asians essentially. And now the government's like, yeah, no. We're going to have Filipino people raise your children, which like from what I understand, Filipino nannies are amazing, but it is a little funny because
Well, it's just because like they're very
yeah.
cheap.
In Hong Kong,
that's the second part, right?
Yeah.
Is that
in
like,
Hong Kong, many of them hire Filipino nannies,
Hong
and
Kong,
they actually live there, live in their
Singapore,
house.
Middle East.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't
So
love
maybe
that.
they're just trying to copy, these already
I think
established
that's
programs.
exactly. I think it's
What
kinda
effect does
like
that have
washing
on
in a way.
all-
which already exists here too. I mean, a lot of
a lot of
Americans
Filipinos?
hire not only Filipinos
Like
but
Mexican-
like Mexican
Yeah, for sure.
nannies, You have all these
that's
kids
true,
growing up
right.
speaking Tagalog or Spanish.
I remember what's that Jim Carrey movie where the kid picks up the phone and said "Hola," you know.
Oh,
he was about to get
I know what you're
deported.
talking about, but I forget what the movie is.
Same.
You know, I mean that shows, you know, because the nanny
Yeah.
was a Mexican and they, you know, the kid was more comfortable talking Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for all the Filipinos, you know, because that's a big source of income or
I think
revenue.
the DPRK though has 1.4.
Oh, is it? So they're
Birthrate.
beating the crap out of South Korea
They're
on
still,
that front.
it's still below replacement, so they still want to get it up.
You know,
but-
I think birth rate, the higher it is, the better. I think, you know. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
well, it
population
needs
is
to be at least
important.
2.1 to
Depends
maintain.
I
on
think
whose
it's important.
perspective you're on. From Mother Earth's perspective, where the
Oh,
virus
you're
that
talking
needs
about-
to be
Just needs to be
eliminated.
2.1.
Yeah.
Maintain.
From a human perspective.
Because
yeah.
China even abandoned the one-child policy too, right? Because they
Well,
felt
that was like
they
something
realized the importance
Kissinger
of.
like kind of said you need to do this to Deng Xiaoping. But yeah, they got rid of it recently.
Yeah, because population.
so
They made a
progress-
two-child program, and then like they got rid of it.
So progressives have no answer in Korea either. You said Koreans, conservatives just said give them some money.
I think some of the
So
politicians
it's the
have
conservatives
mentioned
saying
about
give
that.
out free money, and the
Free
progressives
money.
are not saying
Yeah,
anything.
but that's like a
And
band-aid.
then, you know, when you have more kids, like 3 kids, 4 kids, more incentive. But I don't think anybody's following that.
Well,
I
or
I
you
never
just
heard
spend that
anybody.
mo-
have,
you just spend that money to like bring up people's wages so that it just happens naturally on its own. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
take money away
nationalize-
from the chebos.
yeah.
Yeah, nationalize industries like Samsung and all this other stuff, and like use that to
Yeah.
fucking fund social programs.
And I don't know how much of it is like young girls, Korean girls, don't want to go through the hardship of motherhood. I think that might play a role too. You know,
think a lot of
most
times-
people don't talk about it, but I think that must be
I
playing
think
a
a
role.
lot
'Cause
of times it's like not this belief people have. It's just like you live your life and you're like, yeah, no, I don't care what my age is. Like, I'm not ready for a child. I'm at this stage in my life. You know what I mean? I'm like this close to a promotion or like making this much money or like I want to like stick it out one more year at this company so I can get this next
It's like the
job
golden
somewhere.
handcuffs.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think it's necessarily people are like, I don't want to have kids. I think it's just
Yeah,
like
it's
the
not
same
like a
as us.
conscious decision.
Yeah.
It's more like, oh, maybe after I get this promotion next year.
Right.
And then like, oh, maybe after this. And then
they're
you're-
pushing
you
it
turn
off.
40, and then you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably. Yeah.
So, wasn't there something about working more hours in Korea?
Yeah, Yoon Suk
Yeah,
Yeol wanted
like
to
he wanted
69
to
hours
increase it
a
some-
week.
But
like
I think
a
that
crazy
kind of
person.
got abandoned because I don't think they're
Even
talking about
even-
it.
He even bailed out the Samsung CEO.
That's like so dumb because if people are already
did.
not procreating because of how much they have to spend
True,
work
yeah,
on,
yeah,
then I'm
yeah.
pretty sure working more is
a-
only
gonna-
advantageous
only
to that
gonna-
one
Yeah,
person.
so I think
yeah.
like Ed said, it is a band-aid on a broken arm because they're not
I know, it
addressing.
doesn't make sense.
They literally bailed out the Samsung CEO who was like on chart in jail for corruption to help the economy.
All I can say
But
is
really, it was just to like
help out
probably
this one man.
yeah,
You-
and
you-
like probably get kickbacks from these goons.
Right.
Yoon
100%.
Suk-yeol is extremely not popular.
They're
at this
all
point.
corrupt.
Even with conservatives?
No, I don't think he.
They're-
you know,
it's a corrupt-
I think he's really tanking.
Why would he think that working more hours is any kind of solution? Like, is he stupid?
I think one of the
he's
advisors
looking out
just
for himself.
said
Because he's
that,
being
yeah.
paid by
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
chebbles, probably.
no,
I
but how
think-
could anyone think that working even more hours is
I mean,
any
especially
kind of
with
answer?
data coming out from like some European countries where they're like, yeah, we cut down to like 3 or 4 day work weeks.
Yeah.
Not only are we maintaining the same amount of output, but it's gone up.
You know what it
Like,
is?
how can you push more hours? When
You know
there's
what it
literally
is? He's
data?
probably trying to like make it seem like he's the next Park Chung-hee.
Something like that.
Trying to,
I
like,
think he was trying to
push
give
the
that
Koreans
impression.
into
yeah,
prosperity again.
Because he did say glowing things about Chun Doo-won, you know, the military dictator.
Yeah.
He did say some glowing
Yeah,
things
he's
about him.
scum.
So he was playing both sides. He was picked actually by Moon Jae-in. You know that, right? He was the attorney general under Moon Jae-in. So he
Okay,
was
but
he
they're
was
not in
doing
the
this
same-
switcheroo thing.
They're not the same party though.
Not now, not anymore,
Yeah.
because he was prosecuting one of the.
Anyway, it's just like I
Chogul,
think the
yeah.
chebbles run the country,
But-
just
Yeah.
like
yeah, and I think the
they have full control over the Chosunilbo and all the newspapers. They have
How about
full control.
중앙일보?
Junghwa was conservative too.
I don't know
the
what
paper
Junghwa
side.
But like most of the Ilbos, they have
You've
they have
heard of
control.
Cho-
Of,
You've heard of Chojungdong?
조선일보,
I've heard of like
중앙일보.
Han, there's this one
중앙일보.
independent one called like Han something.
한겨레.
한겨레?
한겨레 is
Yeah.
a liberal paper.
Yeah, that's what I heard is like legit independent.
Yeah, but 한겨레 was very against Noh Moo-hyun too, and I think Noh Moo-hyun was one of the good guys who committed, the one
I
who
don't-
committed
I don't
suicide.
know too much about that.
Yeah, but
I have to
Anyway.
research.
I remember. Yeah, Yeah, but I think Yoon Sung-yeol is, I think he's not doing well. He's a newcomer. He never been in politics before. He
and
came
it
out
shows.
of the blue. And it kind of shows, yeah.
Wasn't there some talk about his wife also being
Kim
kind of
Gun-hee?
corrupt and
Yeah,
like
Kim Gun-hee got
taking
some,
deals and stuff?
Dior bag. Is Dior, Christian Dior?
Uh-huh.
Somebody
Yeah,
gave
yeah.
a present, and they were shooting.
It's always
the
bags
video
for
camera,
Korean women, huh?
and then
Sumi Terry or
and she just took
Not
it.
looking great.
She just took it.
European bags. Okay.
She said,
I don't
thank
know.
you.
Like
She said,
my,
thank you very much.
So I have
And-
like Korean friends in Vancouver, and they say like the Korean people that come from Vancouver now, or to Vancouver now from Seoul, they're at another level of crazy, like
Yeah.
psychotic, in
what
terms
way?
of like just competitiveness and like just
think they-
aggressive
yeah.
edge.
You-
And I think it's really like everything runs downstream, in my opinion, of economics.
Korean girls, right?
Yeah, Korean girls
Yeah.
or guys.
Yeah, and I think if you think about the population density, they all compete and they want to look better than the others. It's always there.
Yeah.
People are always conscious about that, and especially I heard females, they compare with each other what clothes they wear, what bags they carry, and I guess Kim Gun-hee was happy to get one for free, but until it became such a huge scandal right now, and they want a special
She has, like,
special
multiple
counsel investigation.
facelifts.
Multiple facelifts,
looks like a
almost
zombie.
unrecognizable, if you look at her past photo. But I don't know. What they claimed was they don't have kids, so we can't be corrupt. They were kind of selling that information.
Oh, they don't even have
During the
kids
time, they don't have
themselves?
kids.
Not having kids means you're not corrupt.
Park Geun-hye also was talking about that because she was saying that I'm not married. She didn't have a husband. I don't have kids, so that therefore, how corrupt would I be? I don't have anybody
make
to give
any
the money
sense.
to. But
would
that
make you more
card
corrupt.
works in Korean politics.
Did you?
Yeah, that makes you more corrupt because you're all about yourself.
Oh,
now.
is it? Does it?
If you have a
From
family, you have
psychological
like
standpoint, yeah.
you have kind of a cachet of saying like, oh, I care for a husband, I care for my children.
Right.
But if you're by yourself, you're like,
There's no argument that you don't put yourself first in everything. Like that's
Exactly.
the weirdest thing I've ever.
But I
heard.
remember even in Vietnam, they spun it as, Ho Chi Minh was so dedicated to the people that he didn't have his own family. He wanted to dedicate everything to the people.
Okay.
that was
No, you
actually that was propaganda though. He
Yeah.
had a-
Right, but
but because prior to that, like Kim Young-sam, when he was the president of Korea, his son Kim Hyun-chul was taking a lot of favors, and he was threatening a lot of companies, So
Yeah.
that family thing always, corruption always happened.
oh, it's
prior-
kind of like Hunter.
yeah.
I
the
think
Hunter
they're,
Biden
they're
thing
trying to make
happened
the,
a lot.
They're trying to make the argument that in a Korea, a lot of corrupt Koreans are nepotism. Is
Yeah,
due to
actually,
them.
there's a lot of. I
so
think
they're
nepotism
like-
is. They take it as a norm.
Yeah.
They don't even say.
But
I don't
that's
think people
ironic
even
that Park
criticize
Geun-hye
it.
would say that because she's literally the granddaughter of,
Yeah.
or daughter,
Daughter.
or
daughter. But
yeah,
I think
of
there
Park
was.
Chung-hee. So it's just kind of like
there was some
a hypocrite.
There was some sympathy towards her because her mom and dad got both assassinated. So I think Koreans have that, I'm just so
Yeah, well,
so
tell that
sad
to
for-
tell that to the children of the ferry.
So
yeah, that's very
they
undescent
voted
to
her
them.
in. She got impeached. She got impeached.
she should've.
And yeah, Korean politics, nepotism is pretty big there.
So there's no solution, I guess. I mean, I would, when I was in North Korea 10 years ago, I asked them, like, how do people pay rent or whatever? And they said, oh, this is all free. I said, how do you get it? They said, oh, when you get married, you can get a flat. Like, they want to encourage
Family.
couples to have raise families. So, like, hey, here's a home. Get started. Do your thing. And I said, do couples live together sometimes before marriage? And then the guy said, well, sometimes if some parents are okay, they'll let the girl move in
to the parents'
to
house.
their son with their son. But he said that it's not that common. And then I asked, well, who builds all these homes? Like they said, oh, the army does. That's what the army, because everyone's there's so many people in the army,
It's
right?
10-year service.
What they're
10
doing,
year, yeah.
they're constantly just building. So they build houses and things. Basically, they're constantly working to build up the country, and one of the things is provide housing for people. So I think South Korea has a big military too, right? I mean, it seems like housing is the number one expense thing
Yeah.
that I think a
Everywhere.
lot of South
My cousin
Koreans
said
are
he
worried about.
dug a lot of ditches when he was in the military.
And,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think that's
so-
also one of the reasons why people are not marrying. The housing being
Well,
so
yeah, I think
expensive.
that's the main reason.
Yeah.
That
Is
is the
like
main reason.
if you don't even have a home
How
and you don't have financial, you don't have
Basic
financial
necessity
security.
Yeah.
for a family.
because like half of South Korea's population is concentrated in this small like Seoul metropolitan area.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, and that makes it more and more expensive every year. I think there's like,
And 20 million.
flats that like my aunt had that she got for like 90K back in the 80s or 90s.
90K.
And it was like valued at 4 million because it's just in like Apgujeong or something like that.
That
Holy
would be,
shit.
yeah.
And so like
would
they
be.
sold it because they didn't need that much money, or they didn't need that kind of apartment, and they could find.
And they
something.
put that in Bitcoin.
I don't know.
That 4 million became 4 billion. No.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
didn't it drop these days?
No, but what I'm saying is, with all the people in the Korean military, can't they use some of those soldiers and build housing and because I heard, have you guys heard of the housing lottery in Korea?
Yeah, Korea has it.
They
yeah.
could, but like, where would they build it? If they build it anywhere in Seoul, those are going to be expensive. Just
You gotta-
No,
because
just
of
like they
real
have
estate companies.
what is it, Sejong Shindoshi?
But the
Daejeon
thing is, like,
Shindoshi.
how are you going to convince people to move to those areas to start
Yeah.
families? Like,
Well, again, maybe they should do more central planning.
well, yeah, they're not going to do that because they're
Yeah, but-
capitalists.
A lot of these places need like someone who understands like creating culture of some sort.
I mean, they try
Even
to
with
build a
city
new
planning.
city in Sejong City,
Daejeon City,
Sejong New
yeah,
City.
uh-huh.
They're trying to get 1 million people in there by 2030, I think.
Yeah.
They got about, I don't know, several 100,000 in there now, but they built, it's, kind of ghost town-ish. But the plan is to get people in there. Like, can't they build more of these new cities? I mean, if they're really worried about the birth rate, then provide affordable housing. Right now they have a lottery system. My cousin
They have a lottery system.
My
yeah.
cousin explained it to me. He's part of the system. He's like a young dude in his 20s, and he's like, you put money in, I guess, a little bit, and then
yeah.
you can win a lottery, one out of like 4 million or something, and you have the right
Yeah,
to
I
buy a flat at a price, like at a developer price or something. So maybe like $300,000 or $400,000,
Yeah.
even though the market value is like over $1 million. But your chance of winning that is like a lottery.
So those
But
are
that's one of the solutions they come with is you can try to be
the
part of this
dumbest thing I've
lottery
ever
so you
known.
can
It's an
pay
anomaly.
Right.
a regular rate for a home and not pay over $1 million. Now, for the average Korean worker, how could they even getting the lower priced home is not going to be easy. So why not just, if they really care about the birth rate and they don't want to disappear, build the housing.
Like Michael once said, it's just after the financial crisis, once foreign investment has so much money in South Korea, they dictate the terms of engagement. Like before 1997, I think we could have done
Yeah.
stuff like that, where it's like, this is our country, we get to decide what to do with our resources. But now that 50% of like all these corporations and I'm sure real estate companies are foreign investors, they're like, no, we want to maximize our profit. Fuck this program or whatever. So this is like the stuff that's behind the scenes that nobody's really talking about, that's hindering South Korean governments from actually doing stuff for their people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I figure Koreans can say, fuck the investors. Our country is dying. Fuck the investors. They took a risk. You're not guaranteed to make your money back. Let's serve our people.
Well,
and
they
fuck these
would
investors.
if they knew that was going on. But the South Korean government and anti-capitalist kind of rhetoric or anti-communist rhetoric is suppressing any sort of thing that talks about that stuff.
It's amazing with this potential extinction of South Korea. No one has thought of just provide houses. Instead of work more or hey, we're going to bring in Filipino
Oh, I'm
nannies.
sure they've thought of it. They're just like suppressing it because they know that their American corporate overlords wouldn't like that.
Not
Yeah.
to mention, there's like so many again, not that there's anything wrong with Filipino nannies outside of the whole wage gap thing, which is gross. But there's like a lot of unhoused, unworking, elderly Korean people in Korea who could easily be nannies. Like, why is there no program?
Yeah,
for
I
that?
think the rate of
And we're not talking
poverty.
about like fragile old people. We're talking about like these halmonis who are like pushing around like 100 pounds of cardboard every day. You know what I mean? Like they could easily watch a child.
Yeah.
I think there was some crazy stat. There were senior citizens in Korea, 41%
Senior
are
poverty,
Yeah.
right?
under the poverty line.
Yep.
And
So many.
And also the thing with the Filipino, which I tried to bring up earlier, is a lot of Filipino economy is based on Filipinos leaving the country,
Yeah.
working abroad, and
then
sending money back. It's like,
How
what
can you
about
do
all
that?
those people and their families? They're thousands of miles away from their families.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
think
sad.
that's good.
Also,
for them
like,
either.
how much money can you send back at $7.10 an hour? Not much.
I mean, back when I was very young, my dad was sending money back when he didn't make that much money.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
if,
not now.
If
But yeah.
they're making, let's say, $50 a day, and they can send back $5 a day, like 10%. I don't know. That can go a long way, especially in the
Philippines,
province.
yeah, possibly.
Because I think the average like income in Philippines is something like 3 or 4K USD.
Per year?
Yeah.
So I think like usually they work in Hong Kong a lot, right? And usually they live with them, the family. So I think
So their standard of living is more like 15 because of purchase parity.
So they
it's
don't
not
need to-
like that terrible,
still,
but yeah.
they don't need to spend expense for their living expense because they can eat the food there. You know,
Exactly.
So they don't need to. Spend
So they can
there.
send back
So they can send
most
back
of their wages.
Yeah, most of their wages.
Yeah.
That's how I think it
Yeah,
works
yeah.
out. And I mean, back to Korea. Yeah, I think population being so, focused on Seoul and Gyeonggi-do around that area,
Exactly,
20
yeah.
million. That is an issue. We have to.
It
Korea
doesn't
has
make
to
any
spread
sense
out.
that they're not incentivizing businesses to relocate there, for schools to open up or have a satellite or move there. Like that's the quickest way to get population to move is like you have good education, which then attracts businesses to be there, and then boom.
I think they're just so
People.
ossified in the current kind of situation that nobody wants to move anywhere near the main source of commerce.
Yeah.
Because like when foreigners or anyone comes to Korea, they go to Seoul, right? They're not going to want to go to like, Busan or whatever if they don't have to.
Yeah.
So it's just like out of convenience that like, it's just
It's almost like a city country, It's too
Yeah.
focused on Seoul
It is
and
really focused on Seoul.
like kind of Singapore-ish.
in a way, yeah, it's like that. So, and people don't, especially young people, don't want to go to countryside. They want to be in they want to
Sigur.
be in the trendy place, It's like
Yeah.
Sigur. So I think you said it. If you go to Sigur, you don't see a lot of kids anymore, and yeah, it's
Seems to be making a comeback. I noticed some YouTube channels, some young people
Yeah,
have moved
yeah.
out there.
Doing like we survive with no money.
at a countryside.
It's like
place.
YouTube videos. My mom has been watching some of those
like
too.
the people who buy that like $100 plot of land in like Joshua Tree, and they're like, "Look what I set up in my 100 plot of like 20 feet by 20 feet plot of land that I bought." And you're like, "Why am I watching 10 hours of this right now?"
Like
Yeah.
with solar panels from like from Elon or something.
Yeah, it literally is like watching one of those like civilization games where it like starts off with like twigs and branches, and then they built
But
this
didn't
like,
even
little...
Ihori, she moved to
Ihuri
Jeju,
moved
right?
to Jeju Island,
Yeah.
and she lived there for a while, and I think it kind of popularized.
Jeju
the
is a
place.
little
Jeju is
different.
different. Yeah.
Jeju's
Yeah,
different.
it's more of like a
Have you been there?
touristy
Yeah, it is.
sort of
Yeah, it became a completely
locale.
tourist
Yeah.
place. Not not like how
Well,
it
she was
used to
running
be.
like a.
I mean, it's like almost a tropical
a
island.
hotel?
It's
It
like
is.
No,
Airbnbs and stuff I hear.
What I
do
understand
pretty
is she had his own house there, but she sold it to JTBC. Now she moved back to Seoul. That's what I understand.
I know, but what was she doing in Jeju? Was it an
It was a-
Airbnb?
It was a reality show. No, I don't think it was an Airbnb.
She wasn't running a hotel or anything?
No,
Okay.
that I don't know. It was a reality
She
show.
was just living there.
Her and her husband, living
who
this
is this
life.
again?
Yuri, the
Oh,
most
Yuri.
popular singer.
I think she's been doing
She
a lot
also
of,
doesn't
like-
have any kids.
They're still married too, right?
They're still married, but she doesn't.
So
have
somebody was
kids.
explaining to me the K-pop like pipeline. So basically, they are saying that the entertainment system is set up such that when you're really young, you go into K-pop, right?
Yeah.
And then like when you're like in your mid to late 20s, then you transition into K-dramas.
Mm-hmm.
And then like,
You're talking about the artists themselves.
yeah. So
I think that is a
'cause, like,
formula.
You
Yeah.
get too old to be
Yeah.
in K-pop anymore. So now you're
That is
in-
a formula.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
and I think Yuri,
that pipeline, I think she was before that pipeline kind of got established.
She was a pioneer.
But
in a
yeah,
way,
she's
One of
somewhat of a pioneer and like kind of like a
I
big
don't
enough
think
icon.
I don't think she made it that big in the acting arena, but I think she was one of the ones who
Yeah,
started
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
there were other.
she had enough of a cachet and brand to
Yeah.
like do other stuff afterwards.
Yeah, because Yuri was kind of like a superstar. She's
She
considered
was like the
one
it
of
girl
the
in
yeah,
Korea
yeah,
for
superstar,
early
yeah.
2000s.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right. So anyway, that's
And
with
Boa.
the nannies in
Poa was
Korea.
big too.
Anyway, Korea's birth rate is not going to be solved by nannies from the Philippines or by working more hours.
It'll be solved by
More
North Korea and
incentives.
reunification.
Free house, free.
I was talking with a friend on the weekend. We were having lunch. Was it Saturday? And then he was like, "So asking me about North Korea." I said, "Yeah, some." He just said, they're never gonna unify." I go, "Of course they are. Just because they've been separated for under 100 years, but thousands of years. I mean, eventually they'll find their way back.
We're
Whether
2,000,
this government or
3,000-year-old
some other government,
civilization.
whatever it is, they'll be
Possible.
back." And then he's like, "You're retarded."
Oh, really?
And I'm like, this guy called me retarded because I said something that's like, I'm like, anyway.
I think you're retarded.
So, are you still friends?
Well, I just said no need for the insults, and
That's
then
good.
he changed the subject. Anyway,
Because he's retarded.
he's not a fan of yours, by the way. He's seen the show.
Yeah, because he's retarded.
Apparently, he's not a fan of
Doug.
mine either. He's always calling me retarded.
Yeah, because he's retarded.
But you've called me retarded too, I think.
You use this word way too many
I've
times in the last
called
2
what
minutes for my own
I may have
comfort.
called what you said retarded, but I didn't
Okay.
directly
Okay.
call you retarded.
All right, and anyway, that's
And enough of that.
that's the Korea thing. Now at the Olympics, wow, China's kind of kicking ass.
They're
huh?
number one.
They don't
21
have
golds.
They don't have the most medals, but they have the most golds.
You're right. By most medal standard, America has never relinquished their position number one.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
only
I think
country.
it's a function of, material conditions obviously improving in Asia and obviously China in general. When you have more money, you can fund your Olympic athletes.
Hasn't China always kicked ass in medals though?
In
Not
sports,
really,
wise.
actually.
In sports, they were always good, though.
Yeah, they
right?
were.
They were
what I
always
always
good. Like
remember
in
in
Asian,
Olympics,
medal
they were
counts.
always top like 5.
like in Asian game, they were always number one.
Yeah.
I remember
See,
when
in
they
2020, China was number 2, one
number 2.
behind U.S. in gold.
I think they were always behind.
Holy
the gold.
shit! How did Taiwan? So if you combine China and Taiwan,
Is that
they
is
would
that
have
Olympics?
Kicked, yeah, well, ROC, Republic of China,
Oh,
right?
I can't believe it.
People's Republic of China combined, they would have had 159 medals. They
They
would
would
have
be number
kicked
one.
U.S. ass.
But they do have 4 times as many people.
Yeah,
There's that.
but then
But
U.S.
they've always been really good because I'm
were
pretty sure
good.
they
You know, like-
militarize their training. Like it's like
Probably. I mean, I'm sure
Beat the crap out of them.
no, not that.
there's definitely like
necessarily.
PLA
Just,
recruits that
yeah.
are like, oh, maybe I'll do Olympics.
I always
Especially
got,
with ping pong.
I always got the impression like China or back in the day East Germany. Somehow I felt like their training regime.
They
regimen
they always
would be a little bit
dominated
more
certain events
strict.
like ping pong.
That's why
or
like
Ping
Russia
pong, they're
always
number
done
one.
well.
Yeah.
But I think
Russia, China's
this year
always
was the
done well.
first year that they dominated. So apparently there was some swim event. I think it was a
Swim,
relay
Pan, right? Pan.
where the United
The
States
400
never
meter.
lost that since
400 meter.
1980.
400 meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're coping real hard right now.
Wait, isn't there also a an event that Korea hasn't lost in the last like
women's
archery.
archery.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was speed skating.
Since '88.
Archery.
Yeah.
Speed skating, they're good too, but women archery.
Apollo Ono.
I got it. I watched that happen. I was like,
You mean this Hollywood action?
Apollo.
God, I hated that movie.
Anyway,
so
look at the
much.
2008 Olympic rankings. That was the one, and that was in China, I believe.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And you see there, somehow China was number 1 in gold. They got 33% more than the U.S.
Wow.
I don't know if the event being in China had anything to do with that. Because the previous Olympics, China was always ranked like number 2 or
Okay.
3. I think 2016 they were ranked number 3 behind Great Britain and the U.S. But yeah, they've always done pretty well, it seems.
Yeah. I remember back in 2008 when they were, having Olympics in Beijing.
mean, I never really paid
The
attention,
swimming,
to be
the swim facility was really state of the art.
Yeah.
It looked really great.
2004
Yeah,
Athens.
I think it's like similar to here. I think there's like an incentive to be like, hey, you come from a poorer household. If you work really hard at this ping pong, like
Yeah.
you might.
There's
break
actually
out of that.
also stuff like that in South Korea too. I think like if you win a gold medal,
You
you're
don't go to
exempt
military.
from military
Yeah, you don't go to
service.
military.
Oh yeah.
So that's
yeah,
why
I
like
know.
even
So there's stuff like
Also,
that.
real quick, remember last week when we were like, yeah, they're planning on swimming in the Seine? They did.
Ugh,
It
gross.
was the triathlon.
triathlon.
Yeah, someone threw up, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow, doing that.
So the triathlon was the swimming portion was in the Seine River, and then one of the contestants or competents, whatever, threw up because it was
Who won?
so disgusting.
Do you know?
I don't remember.
Wow.
It's like, why
Yeah.
would you want to win?
I
that?
was like, yeah. I was like, I don't
Even
watch
if you get a
this.
bronze medal, you're exempt from military. By the way, Olympics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even
Yeah.
bronze.
I feel like it was
You're a
only
national
gold. Gold or
hero.
No, that's Asian game.
All right, all
Asian
right.
game.
We got to wrap up, but let me show this real quick. I just went back to 1976. So the 76 Olympics was where?
Montreal.
Montreal, okay. Soviet Union was number 1 with 49 golds. Now 80 was in Moscow, and the U.S. was not there.
U.S. was not there.
But the Soviet Union won 80 that time. 84 was in L.A. and the
LA.
Soviet Union was
It
not
wasn't
there.
88.
And
They
the
were all
United
there.
States won 83. Now, the last time the Soviet Union was in the Olympics was in 88 in
yeah.
Seoul. And they kicked ass
They
with
kicked
55. The German communists got
We'll
37.
kick your ass,
So the
Americans.
communists kicked.
East Germany was really yeah.
You stupid Americans.
Wow, East Germany and West Germany.
East
are
Ger-
stronger.
I remember that. Yeah. when
But
East
China
Germany
was like way.
You and your stupid Rocky.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
this was in Seoul though, right? That's
Yeah,
I
why.
think
Everyone was
Russia's
in
always
Seoul.
had sports that they just dominated.
Korea was number
too.
4.
Yeah, like
figure
hockey.
skating. and
you know, if
hockey.
Russia was not
Flat
banned
of
from
ice.
the Olympics this year
This
in
year.
France,
They would
I
have
wonder
took a
how
lot.
well they'd
They
be
would have
doing.
took a lot.
Yeah.
You know, they would have took
So-
a lot of medals. They're good
I
at
feel
sports.
like their sports is usually winter sports.
Oh, you mean Russia?
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's a
But
lot
they-
of hockey, figure skating.
I mean,
Yeah,
Russia's pretty good at
They've
everything.
done well
I think
in
sports wise,
past
right?
Olympics, especially during the Soviet Union. But then the Soviet Union was how many different countries, right?
Yeah.
So
It was a
For a
union.
tiny little
That was
nation,
when
for two
Ukraine
tiny
was there,
little
right?
nations, Korea and Japan are doing pretty well.
Yeah,
I think the Soviet
so.
Union had
Korea.
Japan's
comparable
got more than
population.
twice the population, though. I think Japan's got
Than
over 100
Korea?
million.
Yeah.
South,
Shit,
110.
over
really?
100 million.
South Korea's got about
Wow.
50.
50.
I did not know that.
I think Australia's the one that only has like 20 million or something.
Wow, but they're kicking ass.
Well, we got
Because
another
they're good
25
at
up north. So.
swimming.
Australia only has 26.
26.
Australia's population is about the same as North Korea's, and their landmass is nearly the size of the U.S. It's crazy.
And Canada
Well,
too.
most of that land is like
Canada has
waste.
less than
Yeah.
30 million.
there's a lot of
Crazy. That is pretty impressive for the
there's
Aussies.
a lot of uninhabitable.
Aussies are
Even New
land
Zealand.
there.
New Zealand has 3 golds, and how many people live in New Zealand? Like,
Probably like 10.
Population.
5 million. Okay.
Oh, so
wow.
that's 5.
All right. Anyway, congratulations to
China.
the
China,
U.S., Australia,
US.
France, Great Britain, and Korea, and Japan. Italy, Netherlands, Germany. Fine. Where's the next Asian?
Whoa, Germany kind of like
Where's the next Asian country?
Next Asian is
stop being.
Let's guess what the next.
strong.
I'm gonna just say it's either gonna be like they're gonna put Hong Kong or
ROC?
Chinese Taipei or whatever.
How about ROC?
Oh, Hong Kong. Okay.
Oh, Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Why
China.
is Hong Kong in a separate category?
I don't know.
It should be included in China.
Yeah, but whatever.
Especially since the
should
comma
be.
China.
It's
part.
kind of
I
funny,
was gonna
right?
guess
I've never
Philippines.
seen that
No
one.
Oh,
way.
Philippines. Okay.
It'd be like if they said New York, New York
Philippines there.
City.
Philippines there.
America.
Hey, Philippines doing good.
Chinese
Chinese
Taipei.
Taipei.
Oh, this
That'll
time
be-
Taiwan didn't do
Taiwan
so well,
didn't-
huh?
And they had this weird fake flag.
I mean, we're only like
From-
halfway through. Right?
From ROC to Chinese Taipei. Yeah, halfway
Yeah.
through.
What is with
We
that
have 1
flag?
week
It looks
It's like
ridiculous.
this Olympic,
It has an Olympic-
fake flag.
logo there.
How's Mongolia doing?
Well, they only
Mongolia.
got about 2 million people, right?
Hey, DPRK.
North Korea got
DPRK,
2 silvers
two
and 1
silver.
bronze.
And one
Wow.
bronze.
Mongolia.
Oh,
They
right
got
there.
1 silver.
Dang.
One silver.
Oh yeah, that was that picture of that Chinese and Korean and North Korea.
Oh, yeah,
they were
picture
taking
together.
selfies, right?
Yeah.
Hey, look,
Yeah, yeah,
Turkey's
yeah.
got 1 silver,
cool.
1 bronze. Is that the shooter guy with the silver thing?
Oh, the
Yeah,
guy
shooting.
who-
Yeah, there it is.
The guy who looks like he just rolled out of
Just
bed
rolled
and
out of
shot the thing.
The funny thing moment was when the Korean shooter won the shooting event.
Oh, you mean the girl?
Yeah, and people were like,
The
"Why
hot-
didn't
the hot
America
girl?
win any of the shooting?" And
You're
someone
right,
was
you're
like,
right, you're
"Because
right.
you don't need to know how to aim with an AR-15." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
That
Anyway.
Kim Ye-ji,
Well,
right?
the-
You're talking about.
The Trump guy didn't know how to aim.
You mean Thomas Matthew Crook?
Yeah.
He aimed correctly, but Trump was lucky. He just
No,
dodged the
apparently
bullet, right?
my sniper friends are saying like you got to aim for that.
T-zone.
Yeah, he was nowhere near that.
Oh, he was nowhere near
Yeah.
the T zone. Oh.
Conspiracy. Okay, anyway, congrats to
Yeah.
all the
Olympians.
Olympians.
Mhm.
I hope, it seemed early on there was some racist shit that some Chinese athletes were going through, like the white photographer later bumping into the swimming
Oh,
guy,
yeah.
or the way that
They're all like saying
the
he's
girl hit
doping
the
or whatever.
tennis ball at the girl, like
Yeah.
hit her
Wow.
body with it, and saying like I don't respect your style or something like.
Or like it doesn't.
Or the Australian coach saying that's not possible, like he must be cheating.
Yeah.
And Michael
They're all
Ph-
like coping. It's
and-
like when Hitler, in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, when Black Americans were crushing the running events, he was just like beside himself, and he was like, "I'm not going to shake his hand or whatever."
Didn't Song Gi-jung win gold medal
Huh?
when Hitler in Germany? Song Gi-jung,
I
the
think there
marathon
It was a Korean who
Yeah.
won for Japan.
for Japan. Yeah.
Okay.
He was on the Japanese team.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
congrats to all the Olympians. Let's see how it goes. I hope China and Korea get more medals. Should I root for Japan too? They're
whatever.
still Asian, right?
Asian.
Yeah.
Ish.
So then that means ROC too. I mean,
yeah, ROC, Hong Kong, all of that.
Philippine.
But
Philippines,
competitively,
Mongolia.
no.
Competitively,
Yeah.
no. Only Korea.
Friendly competitively.
Okay.
If they're in a competition with us, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
As a supportive, yes.
If they're in some sort of random event we don't care about, sure. Go
If they're
knock
Asian,
yourself out.
fine. Unless they're Korean, then Korean. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like Korea is doing much better than expected. People didn't expect them to do.
But we
this
always
well.
do pretty well.
Yeah, but they didn't expect that much for this.
What events are
particular
we
event.
getting golds in?
Archery.
Archery,
Shooting.
Swords or something. I don't know.
Well, we're ready for warfare.
All right. Anyway, last topic. Let's just cover this for like 2 minutes. Josh Shapiro. So Kamala
yeah.
Harris, that cackling idiot. I really hate her. I remember
There's
2020.
a song on it now.
Really?
You guys have heard that, right?
Cackling
I
idiot.
haven't.
Kamala?
No. Like there's
Cackling
a song
Kamala?
that someone took her laughing and turned it into a
Oh,
song.
like an
Yeah,
auto
I
tune.
can-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And it's
hate
kind of
that.
hilarious.
But I remember 2020 during the Democratic primary debates and stuff. Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her.
Yeah, she did.
Oh yeah.
And even like in California, she barely got in. Like nobody liked her.
She didn't get any votes.
And then everyone was wondering like, who's Biden's pick gonna be? And then he chose Kamala, and I was like, why? Nobody likes her.
Yeah, everyone thought it was going to be Stacey Abrams, but
Yeah, because of
She
the.
did just break a record of raising the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time.
Because of the,
Kamala?
Yeah.
that was because of George
I
Floyd.
think they're all just kind of trying to
that was
rally
a George
around
Floyd
her real
aftermath.
quickly now,
So
though.
I think he
It's
had to
more
pick
like,
the black.
gotta
lady.
beat Trump.
Yeah, it's
No,
not.
she's even had Zoom calls recently, like with specific demographics. Like there was 2 last week just with the AAPI community. One was like AAPI in general, and one was like AAPI women.
Ugh, God.
Oh
whatever.
God, I can only imagine.
She was, I remember she was in this ad for like please donate to my campaign. She was wearing this necklace, and somebody found the necklace online. It was like some $68,000.
Wow.
You're talking about
Really?
the Tiffany necklace.
Yeah, it's like, how do you do, my fellow workers?
Anyway,
That's 68,000. Wow.
Yeah, but it was probably donated or just.
it's like a handbag, right?
Yeah, donated by
No, but a lot of
whom?
times it's not even donated. It's just rented out for that event. Like with the Emmys
Oh,
and
okay,
stuff. Like
sure.
all that jewelry
They
and
rent out?
gowns.
Oh, okay.
It's just
But-
rented out.
Anyway, with Kamala Harris meeting all these AAPI leaders, like
Ugh,
all these AAPI leaders, what's their stance on Palestine and Gaza? And now that she might be choosing this Shapiro
IDF
guy,
volunteer.
this guy who volunteered for the IDF,
Yeah.
and Kamala herself has been supportive of
She has been
Israel's.
supportive of Israel.
Did you see that thing where apparently some Wikipedia editors tried to edit that out?
Yeah,
The IDF thing.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
You know,
yeah.
Wikipedia is changing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, what these
State.
these AAPI leaders, though, are they still gonna support Kamala because she's gonna support less murder of
From
Palestinians?
what I'm
or-
hearing is that people are ignoring what's happening in Gaza to focus on anybody but Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I
Anybody but
don't like
Trump.
Democrats
And that's
because
why,
you
like,
got a genocide going. They're like, yeah, but
You
Trump.
saw what Kimmy Yam wrote just today.
What
right?
did she write?
I didn't look at what she
So
wrote.
she works for NBC
I
Asian
know.
America,
Yeah.
one of our
I know.
AAPI leaders. She wrote this whole article about like how so there's this this Chinese woman who won a gold medal.
We got 2
and
minutes.
Her boyfriend proposed to her, and it was like this very heartfelt, very like wholesome moment that everyone's like, oh, that's so cool, whatever. She's saying like some didn't appreciate it because it was the man, trying to steal the spotlight away from the woman, and like no one interpreted it. Like I was just kind of like, how much do you hate your own people and you hate your own Chinese people that you can write a stupid fucking article like
Yeah,
this?
Kimmy
This
Yam
is what our leaders are. They're not our leaders. They are in it for their fucking selves.
She's got that cool white boyfriend, right? Anyway,
God.
but I'm guessing her white boss told her to add that
It
angle.
doesn't
I
fucking
guess.
matter. She would have.
They let her write those kind of articles.
I know, but again, she agrees to do it. I
yeah.
understand, but
She would have wrote it anyway.
but anyway, yeah, that's so can we really these AAPI leaders?
They're scum.
I don't know. Can we really trust them?
No, they're
I mean,
scum.
I feel like if you're a leader, you're supposed to speak out, right? And we're not leaders, but we speak out about shit, right?
Obviously.
So are they really the leaders that Kamala Harris should be talking to?
I don't know.
If they're just a bunch of yes men and women,
as
or
far as I
theys.
know, these Zoom calls were open to anyone. So it wasn't even just leaders. You just had to know.
Female
I didn't know. You just
Asians,
had to
right?
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was technically knew about both. I didn't go on though because I don't support genocide.
But anyway, Kamala Harris does support genocide, just like Trump would. So
they're trying to make it seem like, oh,
Genocide light.
maybe if you vote for Kamala, she's
Kamala.
gonna, reverse all the, I don't know how to say her.
Kamala. She says Kamala.
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 The way that she
Kamala.
pronounces her name is
Kamala.
is Indian.
Kamala.
That's how they pronounce
All right, so
Kamala.
Kamala
Harris.
means like a flower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kamala.
So it's just kind of like the Democrats are trying to make it seem like Kamala is not gonna, continue or might like push for a ceasefire when she's really not gonna do jack.
Yeah.
yeah, she's
'Cause
not
her
gonna.
husband, her husband supports IB, right? Israel police.
She's just gonna
Her
laugh.
husband is
Both parties support just killing
must
people
always
in Gaza.
stand behind.
do you buy into
Israel.
that stuff?
What?
Mossad?
Is standing behind
Mossad being what?
Israel is standing behind Israel.
Israel's so powerful.
To
right?
unburden what can be, what
Yeah.
cannot be.
What do you
and
call it?
what
What do you say
isn't.
that?
In
How do you
Verdun,
say it?
it is can,
You can what?
and that is America.
Unburden.
On that
Unburden.
note,
You
thank
see-
you for joining us.
Imperialism is when a big country attacks a small country.
And I.
Passage of time.
All right, so screw Kamala Harris and anyone that supports Kamala Harris
Or genocide.
or genocide. Screw Kamala Harris for supporting genocide and the fucking so-called leaders or representatives of
But
the
also
community.
Trump, 'cause he's also
Yeah.
supporting genocide.
He's Zion Don.
Yeah.
That's like of course, default, basic, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But the thing is, it's be careful about Kamala. She's not your friend. Kamala is not on your side. Kamala has never been on. Don't forget, all you progressives, she's still a cop, right?
She definitely put a
Yeah,
lot of
she's,
black men in
she
prison
did
for
in
spurious
California.
reasons.
And yeah.
Like for all those like restorative justice, like, haranguing that's been going on with the Democrats. She literally threw all those people into jail for like very small marijuana charges.
And she herself smoked marijuana.
Yeah.
She was laughing
It's
about
like,
it.
I'm Jamaican. Of course I did.
And regardless of what she says about racism or whatever, all this shit, she supports all that bullshit. And look who she's married to. So
Establishment.
anyway, and if she chooses that IDF guy, even if she doesn't,
Hey,
but
yeah.
if she
I think
does,
she's gonna choose her
Betting market says she's
I think she's gonna
63%.
choose her.
I think
Because-
it'd be really stupid
'cause-
if they did.
because
She.
as a Democratic presidential nominee, if you don't win Pennsylvania, you're done. So he's a governor for Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
I think she's gonna choose her. I don't know, who knows, but.
yeah. So we'll see what happens, and we'll discuss it next time. You know,
Pennsylvania's also been voting blue a lot.
Oh
haven't they?
no. They voted for
Because
Trump in
he's
2016.
not just like an IDF like conscript. He's a volunteer.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
he didn't join the U.S. military, but he volunteered
He
for the
volunteered,
IDF.
yeah.
So which country is he going to serve if he becomes vice president?
and I think a lot of the
Which country does Kamala Harris serve? Not the United
So
States.
you gotta. The Biden Harris got much more money from the Jewish community compared to Trump.
Well, I think
Pence
Democrats
part.
just
Because Republicans don't need as much money, I think.
well, also Democrats get like 80%
80% of what?
of the Jewish.
No,
vote.
most of my Jewish friends, they're Democrats. Most of my Jewish friends, they're
Yeah,
Democrats.
it's 80%,
It's hard for me to
80%.
find, Republican. So all the things
They're
that
the
we see-
highest. They vote
Yeah,
for Democrats the highest.
Exactly, like around
Yeah.
similar to black Americans,
And
right?
yet
I think more than
Republicans are
black.
More than
yet
black. More than
Republicans
black
are more
voters.
supportive of Israel,
Yeah, that was-
Actually, you might be right. Might be comparable, but I think they might even vote for Democrats more than black.
yeah, but I think that is also starting to change. They used to just
Yeah.
blindly
I
support
think there's a
Israel,
lot
but
of
now
support
you
for
have
Trump
like a lot
from
of
the black
Candace
vote.
Owens people. There's a lot of people saying, "Hey, I don't want to care about Israel." So I think it is
Yeah.
changing a lot in the Republican Party too.
Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. We went 13 minutes over.
Wow.
We'll try to do better on the next episode. Next episode, we'll be back with Lanny June, who is an actor. You may, if you're from K-Town, you may remember him from the Koreatown web series, K-Town Cowboys.
K-Town
That was written
Cowboys.
by comedian Danny Cho, who's now doing stand-up in Korea, in Korean. And also was directed by Daniel DPD Park and had all these other people in the show, including one guy, I forgot his name, Raymond something. He went on to become the lead in Quantum Leap, the remake.
Oh.
So we'll be back next time with Lanny June. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. I've been Michael Kim with Michael Wan, Ed Choi, and Douglas Kim. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Sweet. This is-
Annyeong.
That is Korean.
Wait,
Daniel Cho, he's blowing.
did I confirm that?